Well, hello. Fancy seeing you guys here again. Let's talk today about something which I find shocking, and to be honest, it's not funny at all. It revolves around vehicles, electric vehicles specifically, because a lot of the information that we've seen around hybrid and electric vehicles at the minute appears to be honestly shocking. So, something that we've all known for a long time is that batteries degrade, right? This is inevitable, it's something that we've all basically accepted. Batteries degrade over time, and for a lot of people, this is why their phone battery needs replacing every so often. It's why their um, appliances may not last as long over time. It's just the degradation of the battery. That's fair enough. However, where this becomes a lot more concerning is the more expensive the item gets. You see, with a mobile phone or a smartphone, look, I can buy one for a couple of £100 at worst, right? That's an expensive one. I can buy a relatively cheap phone for probably under £200. And to do that every year, every 2, 3 years, is not that bad. It's still a throwaway mindset, but it's not as bad. Now, you see, a car, and specifically an electric car, specifically a new car, is not a cheap purchase. It costs thousands, actually tens of thousands minimum, right? I think we can all agree with that. Tens of thousands minimum. And I'll tell you what's shocking, right? A lot of these electric cars are not lasting very long at all. This is being proven, right? This is shocking to me. So a lot of these electric cars are getting to a point where now some of them are like 5 years old, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. And to my knowledge, I'm not an expert, I'm not a mechanic in electric cars or anything, but to my knowledge, it's like the more the battery gets charged up, the faster the rate of degradation is. So obviously some of these electric cars, a lot of these electric cars actually, are company cars, that kind of thing. They get charged up a lot. They get a lot of miles on them, and and over time, a lot of the batteries in these cars simply degrade to a point where they are near needing replacing. Right? Because electric cars have been a thing for a while, and again, the mass adoption seems to be coming in. Now, two factors are important here. Number one, the fact that the battery as a whole needs replacing. This is perhaps akin to something that you can expect in petrol or diesel cars, where after a while the engine might need replacing, but I'll give you an example, right? I'll give you one example. The car that I have right now is 30 years old. It's on the first engine. Now, hopefully that engine lasts. I don't want to chance it. I don't want the car to blow up. It's a brilliant car. But the car is 30 years old. Original engine, right? As far as I'm aware, original clutch and gearbox as well. But here's the thing, right? It's got 120,000 miles. It runs like it's brand new, and it's 30 years old. These electric cars are getting to 10 years old, and the battery needs replacing. Now, there are some more unreliable petrol and diesels where the engines don't last, more than 10 years themselves. But generally, they're a lot cheaper, and this is where we get worried. Because a lot of these electric car batteries cost 5, 10, 15, 20,000 pounds to replace. 5, 10, 15, 20,000 pounds. And this is going to increasingly become a problem because, like I say, with a used petrol or diesel car, my car is diesel, very few things need to be replaced. So if there's an issue with the engine or the engine system, the car is designed in such a way that you can replace that part. For example, the turbocharger blows up, replace the turbocharger. The injectors don't work, replace the injectors. With these electric cars, the battery is such a substantial piece of the equipment that a lot of these cars are write-offs the minute that their batteries need replacing, because, like I say, it's a devaluation in price that is also worth considering. Because when your battery is 5 to 20 grand to fix or repair, and your car's value has gone down to below that number, your car is worthless, right? It's simply worthless, and that is worrying. If the same equivalent cars, let's say, I don't know what an example of a good electric car is, maybe a Tesla or maybe some of these hybrid BMWs that are coming out. After 5, 10 years, these may be worth still about 5,000, 10,000. Well, they're not going to be if you need to replace the whole battery system, right? It's a huge cost, which will literally render the cars worthless. And for any prospective buyers, that's going to be a big problem. I don't want to buy a £7,000 car or a £10,000 car and know that it might need an additional £5,000 to £10,000 worth of work doing to it. It's literally unsustainable and unviable. When I bought my car, the 30-year-old car that I bought, I was well aware that there may be some problems with it, and I'm still aware that there may be. But even if the entire engine needs replacing, I am aware that the biggest bills on that car, maximum, can probably cost about £2,000. Not 10. And this is where we are, or at least should be getting worried with electric cars, and a lot of modern cars, not just electric cars, because this appears to be a problem with a lot of modern cars. I've known people who have nearly new cars. I don't necessarily think it's necessary to give away the brand, but a lot of the good brands that you'd expect, the cars don't last very long at all. They literally do not last. My car, like I say, is 30 years old, and consequently, it does need work done to it now and again. The average stuff, maintenance, but also the thing above and beyond that you'd expect for an old car to keep it running. My last car was 15 years old, and it only died after it had 150,000 miles. I know people who've got cars that the engines haven't lasted 30,000 miles. That's worrying. The electric car thing is more of an area where the cars will be completely worthless, because if those batteries and motors die, they're that expensive that the car's going straight to the tip. But honestly, a lot of these petrols, especially petrols, because there's not many diesel cars around anymore that are brand new, a lot of these petrols are going the same way. They are going to be scrap value the minute something breaks, because they're not designed like they were back in the day. Look at these things like sealed-in gearboxes. They are designed in a way that once they break, they're completely broken, and you need to do one of two things. Number one is spend an absolute ton of money to fix them and replace a lot of unnecessary parts, or simply get rid. Because again, if you've got a £50,000 car and it needs £10,000 worth of work doing to it, that's completely acceptable. It's not great, but it's financially justifiable to an extent. But imagine, right, my car, the car that I bought now, when it was new, it would have cost about £50,000 30 years ago. As an owner 20, 30 years down the line, they don't want to pay, right? I picked that car up for £1,600, £2,000 all in with all of the repairs done to it, right? Why would I pay £7,000 on a car that's basically worthless? It's worth a lot to me, but financially, it would be a stupid decision. So these cars are going to be worthless all across the board. Or a lot of these new cars, petrol and electric and diesel and hybrid, they're made in a way where they are made to break. Now, this is worrying on two fronts to me. The first front that is worrying is sustainability. We're told all about the fact that electric cars are sustainable, they're good for the environment, and obviously they themselves produce zero emissions, that's notable. But we all know that the amount of extraction of minerals, etc., to build the batteries is worrying, and the rate at which they need to be replaced is worrying, because you'll need to do the same thing again. But more so, it's less about the batteries, right? Because if you can replace and recycle the batteries in a way, perhaps you can, perhaps you can't, that's one thing. When you have to, or choose to, or need to, financially throw away the whole car, that's unsustainable. That is not sustainable. Like I say, these old petrol and diesel cars you can run for 30, 50 years. Some of those old Mercedes from the 70s are still running now on their original engine and gearbox, right? Because they were that well made. That's what I think of when I think of sustainability. Yes, there might be a bit of black smoke that comes out of the back, and of course that's not going to be good, but things are easily replaced. Less manufacturing has to go into the process. And I make a lot of these videos coming back to this point. Consumerism. And I know I make a lot of emphasis on this point, but it's all consumerism, right? The companies who are building these products seemingly do not care at all about environmental conditions, or planet, or CO2, or anything like that. They don't. They can't do building vehicles like this. They're building vehicles where the entire thing, or large parts, traditionally one part would have needed to be fixed. Now 3, 4, 5 parts need to be fixed. Or the car needs to be scrapped because it's financially unviable. This is what we're potentially looking at with the future of these vehicles. And that's why, when my 15-year-old car died, I bought an even older one. Because it's even easier to fix. I know the parts are a bit rarer, so that's potentially a problem, but the car itself, I can work on. My mechanic is going to take him a lot less time to strip down and rebuild that car in the worst of events, right? That's just the truth. And again, going back to the point of reliability and cost, it's actually not cost efficient to drive one of these newer cars. Because not only are you paying a fortune in either finance payments or upfront cost, You're then going to have to pay expensive repairs. The actual repair costs seem to be rising because it does take the mechanics and the people at the dealership, etc., more time to do stuff, right? You need to plug the car in, you need to find the part. A lot of the time, you need to take the engine out or all of these different things, buy a whole part in and dismantle the whole vehicle or the whole mechanical systems, i.e. the engine gearbox, to fix a simple part, right? I feel like it's designed that way on purpose. I think it must be, because it never used to, and it's worrying. It's a worrying trend that we see in a lot of categories. It's an illusion as well of creating more sustainability, but it seems to be doing nothing but leading to more waste, more money going down the drain, more consumerism, because, again, I don't know next to anybody who drives a 30-year-old car, a 20-year-old car. A lot of people don't even drive a 10-year-old car. A lot of the vehicles that I see, and I'm going to make a tally of this one day if I make more videos related to topics like this, most of the vehicles that I see, and people think that's an over-exaggeration, it's not. Most of the vehicles that I see on UK roads in most cities and towns, vehicles, we're talking cars, sometimes even buses and trucks, are less than 15 years old. You'll very rarely find a newer one. Because cars are becoming a throwaway object. They're about status, they're about looks, they're about an image in a way that they haven't been in the past. And I know what car you drive has always been a dictator of something about you, maybe your status, your money level. But you know, the old cars, they last longer. I think it's almost undeniable. I see cars that are 20, 30, 40, 50 years old still on the road. It's like the only problem that they get seems to be rust. The cars will fall apart around the engines and gearboxes and transmissions. Well, that is a gearbox. You get the point. They're not built like they used to be. And again, with this whole electric technology, I wonder if they even can be. I think this is going to be a big concern because, again, the number of electric vehicles is getting larger and larger, and there's two concerns that I have here. Number one is obviously the environmental effects, which is its own problem, but also what is the effect on people's wallets, right? The cost that people save in fuel, yes, they at the minute are paying in the car payments, but let's just say a market where, just like it is now, you can buy an old petrol banger or an old diesel banger for a couple £100. An old electric car for a couple £100, you could be in debt fast. So what's going to happen? Are a lot of people going to be completely isolated from the vehicle market as old cars become unsustainable? Are old cars going to be a thing of the past? Is the cutoff point going to be about... some people tell me it's the mid-2000s. I probably have to agree. Again, I owned a car from 2008, and now I own a car from the 90s. And the build quality literally is night and day. A lot of the newer cars that I get in, even of the luxury brands, are not that well made, seemingly. But that is because they don't have to be. People still buy the products. In fact, no. People finance the products. People finance these cars. And when the 40-month contract or the 60-month contract is done, you replace it for a new one. And all of the parts that start to break outside of warranty, it's either some person else's problem, or the car's just scrap anyway, right? The car's just scrap anyway. Is this a new incentive with vehicles? I hope it isn't. I do hope it's not. But you can't avoid these facts, I don't think. The fact of the matter is, it seems that big bills are coming with a lot of these newer cars, both electric and petrol and diesel and hybrid, that just weren't a thing of the past. Again, these old cars, Mercedes even, Audi, Volkswagen, especially the TDI, old TDI cars, a lot of the Hondas, a lot of the Toyotas, it's like they're bulletproof. It really is like you can just run them forever and nothing breaks, or nothing big breaks. Or when anything big does break, again, you're looking at bills of maybe a couple of hundred or a couple of thousand max. It's not what we're seeing in today's car market, is it?